My name is Ana Romero, and I used to believe that if you worked hard enough, if you stayed late, smiled wide, kept your head down, people would treat you fairly. God, I was so stupid. The morning it all started was one of those pale gray New York mornings where the sky looks like it hasn't slept either. I remember staring at my reflection in the subway window, dark circles under my eyes, hair tied back in a lazy ponytail, my cheap blazer wrinkled at the elbows. I was exhausted, but I was also proud. I had just finished the biggest project of my career, a massive pitch presentation that could have landed our company a multimillion-dollar client. It took weeks of work, late nights, skipped meals, spreadsheets that made my brain feel like mush. And yet, I had done it, that I had actually done it, or so I thought. That I walked into the office that morning feeling like maybe, finally, things were going to change for me. Maybe my boss, Mr. Harrington, would finally look at me without that fake polite smile. The one that said you're invisible but useful. I pushed open the glass door, and everything in the room felt wrong. People were whispering, looking at me, then quickly looking away. I felt my stomach drop like a stone. "Morning," I said slowly, scanning the room. "What's going on?" Nobody answered, not even Jenna, my cubicle neighbor, who usually couldn't resist sharing office gossip faster than the speed of light. She just kept her eyes glued to her screen, her face pale, shoulders stiff. Something was wrong, very, very wrong. And then I heard his voice. "Anna." In my office.
Now.
Mr. Harrington stood in the hallway doorway, his arms crossed, his jaw clenched so tight I could practically hear his teeth grinding. I swallowed hard. "Okay." My voice cracked. I hated that. I followed him down the hallway, each step echoing like a countdown. And when the door shut behind us, everything inside me froze. He didn't sit. He didn't offer me a seat. He just dropped a stack of papers onto his desk so aggressively the corner slammed against a coffee mug. MY presentation. MY work. MY entire damn heart printed on paper. "What is this?" He snapped. I blinked at him. "My presentation. The one for the Westbrook account. The one," he said through clenched teeth, "that you sabotaged." My chest tightened.
What?
No, no, Mr. Harrington, Anna. He massaged the bridge of his nose like I was a migraine. The client reviewed the deck. It contained errors. Huge ones. He shoved a page toward me. I stared at IT. IT wasn't mine. IT wasn't even close. Entire sections were wrong. Figures I never entered. Slides I never made. Phrasing I would never use. "This isn't my work," I whispered. "Oh," he barked out a humorless laugh. "So someone broke into our secure server, edited only your presentation, and somehow made it look like gross incompetence." I felt my heartbeat in my throat. "I didn't do this." He stepped closer, his voice dropping into that cold, condescending tone he saved for interns and coffee spills. "You were trusted with something important, and you failed." "I didn't," I whispered again, weaker this time. "Anna," he continued, "I have no choice. You're fired." It felt like the world tilted sideways. "Fired." I breathed, barely able to get the word out. "But I've worked here for 3 years. I gave up weekends, holidays. I covered shifts when people quit." His expression didn't change. "You're done," he said. "Security will escort you out." Something inside me cracked, like a thin piece of glass under too much pressure. "But I didn't do anything wrong," I said. "You know I didn't. You know how hard I worked." "You may gather your things," he cut in. "The decision is final." I felt heat rising behind my eyes, but I blinked it away. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. Not him. Not today. "Fine." My voice came out flat. "But one day, You're going to regret this. He smirked, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I doubt it. What I didn't know yet, what I couldn't have imagined, was that the entire office had watched the whole scene unfold through the glass walls. My humiliation was public.
Loud.
Final. Security walked me to my desk like I was some kind of criminal. People stared, some whispered, some avoided eye contact altogether. I packed my things slowly. My cheap plant, my mug with the chipped rim, my notebook full of ideas no one ever cared to read. And then, as I grabbed the last pencil from the cup, something caught my eye. A yellow sticky note buried under a file folder. IT was a mind. IT wasn't even written in my handwriting, but it had my name on it. Just 2 words. Check server. My breath hitched. Someone knew something. Someone had left that note for me. Someone wanted me to discover the truth. And in that moment, standing there with my box of leftovers from the life I'd just been kicked out of, something sharp and bright sparked in my chest. Not anger, not sadness, something new. Determination. If he thought firing me was the end, he had no idea who I could become. Not yet, but he would. Oh, he would. I didn't go home right away that I should have. My mom always said when life punches you, you go somewhere safe and breathe. But I couldn't breathe.
Not yet.
Not until I understood SO. Instead of heading to the subway like a normal fired person, I found myself standing outside the office building, clutching that cardboard box like it held my entire identity, that IT kinda did. I looked down at the sticky note again. Check server. Damn, why pulse kicked up? Fast and hard. If someone wanted me to see something, I couldn't ignore that. Not after everything that happened, but I couldn't exactly march back inside and demand a computer. They'd probably call security again, or maybe even the cops. Mr. Harrington would love that. He'd probably watch through the glass wall while sipping his overpriced latte. Still, I needed answers, so I walked to the nearby cafe across the street, a little corner place that always smelled like cinnamon and burnt espresso. I had written half my presentation there. Ironic that I sat in the far booth, dropped my box on the seat beside me, and opened my laptop. Well, my laptop. Not the company one they snatched out of my hands like I was going to run off with national secrets. That I logged into the public guest Wi-Fi and opened the cloud backups I always kept. Every file I ever touched was synced, including the original Westbrook pitch. When it loaded, I felt a chill run through me. Everything was perfect.
Clean.
My numbers, my format, my words. Nothing like the version I'd seen in Harrington's office. I leaned back in the booth. Someone had sabotaged me. But who and why? My brain tried to piece it together, and a dozen little memories surfaced, ones I'd ignored at the time. The day I caught Kyle from accounting hovering near my desk. The smirk Jenna gave me when I told her I'd gotten the project. The way Harrington avoided me for the entire last week. None of that felt random anymore. That I pulled out the sticky note again, studying the handwriting, small, neat, almost too careful. Someone who didn't want to be recognized, but they'd taken the risk anyway. Why? A shadow fell across my table. I looked up. IT was Eli, a guy from IT, tall, quiet, the kind who always wore hoodies no matter the weather. We'd talked a few times when my computer crashed. He was nice. Too nice to belong in that office. Anna, he said softly.
Hey.
I heard what happened. Of course he heard. Everyone heard. I let out a humorless laugh. News travels fast. He shifted, looking uncomfortable. Then he pulled something from his pocket and slid it across the table. A flash drive. MY's stomach dropped. What is this? I asked. I can't officially tell you, he said, eyes darting around the cafe. But I saw something on the server logs. Something you should see. My hands shook a little as I picked up the drive. You're the one who left the sticky note. He didn't deny it. He just sat down across from me and lowered his voice. You weren't supposed to get fired. Supposed to? I whispered. What's that mean? He hesitated, then let out a breath, like he was surrendering to something bigger than both of us. Harrington didn't want you on the Westbrook pitch, he said. He wanted Claire to do it.
Claire.
His favorite. The office princess with the perfect hair and the giggle she only used when the VPs were around. He planned to hand it to her. Eli continued. But you submitted early and nailed it. So he changed the plan. My jaw tightened. He sabotaged me. Not directly, Eli said. He had someone else do it. I can't say who. How do you know all this? I manage file permissions, he said, almost apologetically. Sometimes I see more than I'm supposed to. I felt something inside me twist, a slow, rising fury that tasted metallic on my tongue. Harrington ruined my career, I said quietly. For favoritism. For control, Eli corrected. He doesn't like when someone he didn't pick becomes the standout. You made him look bad. You were too good. Too good. I almost laughed. MY Excellence was the reason I was unemployed. So, what's on the drive? I asked. Proof, he whispered. Server logs. File edits. Timestamps. The kind of stuff that if it got out, he trailed off that I finished it for him. It would destroy him. He swallowed. Yes. I felt my heart beat once hard. Anna, he said carefully, if you use this, you're going to war. I stared down at the flash drive, that tiny piece of metal that could burn down an empire. I thought of Harrington's smirk, the way he dismissed me, the way people watched as I was escorted out like garbage. I didn't start this war, I whispered, but I'm going to finish it. Eli's eyes widened. Not in fear, but in something like respect. Then you'll need more than that drive, he said, lowering his voice even more. Harrington keeps a private folder. Encrypted.
Buried.
Only accessible from his office. If you really want to take him down, that's where the real dirt is. You can get in? I asked. No, he said. But you can. My breath caught.
How?
You still have your badge. They didn't deactivate it yet. I stared at him. He wasn't joking. You want me to break into my old office? I want you to clear your name, Eli said. The question is, how far are you willing to go? I closed my fingers around the flash drive, far enough that Harrington would never see it coming. I slid the drive into my laptop and watched the files populate. Thousands of lines of code.
Logs.
Proof. A map of betrayal. Eli stood. I'll cover you as much as I can. But Anna, if he catches you, he won't. I said, my voice steady for the first time all day. Not this time. He nodded once, sharply, like he approved. Then he walked out, leaving me alone with the truth. I stared at the screen, at the digital fingerprints of the person who destroyed my life. MY humiliation. My firing. My ruined reputation. All of it orchestrated. And now I had evidence. A slow, fierce smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Harrington thought firing me was the end, but it was just the beginning of something bigger, the beginning of revenge. And for the first time in hours, maybe days, I felt alive, because now I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going back in, not as an employee, not as a victim, but as the girl he should have never crossed, the girl who was going to tear down his empire, piece by piece, lie by lie, until he had nothing left, not even his name. I didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked. The moment I got home, I threw my box of office junk on the kitchen table, grabbed my laptop, and stared at that flash drive like it was a detonator, a button I couldn't unpress. The logs Eli gave me were real, ugly, blunt, full of edits made to the presentation after I submitted it, and permissions granted to someone who wasn't me, someone Harrington trusted, someone who wanted me gone. The anger rose in me slow and steady, like water filling a tank, inch by inch, until it threatened to spill over. But anger wasn't enough. Not anymore. If I wanted real revenge, I needed proof. The kind that couldn't be brushed off or twisted or buried under corporate PR. The kind Harrington hid in that private folder. The kind that lived behind his locked office, which meant only one thing. I was going back there tonight. At 10:42 p.m., I stood across the street from the building, my building, wrapped in my thin jacket, the cold Manhattan wind cutting across my face. The place looked different at night. Quieter, colder, like the glass towers had teeth. Most of the floors were dark, except for a few lonely offices lit by the glow of corporate ambition. I checked the time again, 10:43 p.m. security shift change. I'd memorized the schedule years ago because Harrington loved calling urgent meetings at ridiculous hours. I waited until the two guards crossed paths in the lobby, one arriving, one leaving, and slipped inside right as the motion doors open. MY badge hung inside my sweater sleeve. Ready? MY heart. Wasn't ready at all, but I scanned the badge at the elevator. Anyway, IT beeped. Green. They hadn't deactivated it. Good. I stepped into the elevator, pressed the button for the 22nd floor, and let the doors close around me. As the elevator hummed upward, my reflection stared back at me in the stainless steel wall. Pale, tired, furious. You can do this, I whispered to myself. You have to. The door slid open. The office was dark except for the emergency lights glowing faintly along the hallway. My heels clicked softly on the floor as I walked toward Harrington's office. Every shadow felt alive. Every creak sounded like a gunshot. When I reached his door, I tried the handle, locked. Of course it was. I took a slow breath and pulled out the tiny silver USB device Eli gave me before he left the cafe. Just plug this into the H panel next to the lock, he'd said. It'll scramble the reader and pop the door for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, 10 seconds to get in, 10 seconds before it locked again. I knelt beside the panel, pushed the device into the tiny service slot, and heard a soft click. The lock disengaged. My pulse jumped. I stood, turned the handle, and slipped into Harrington's office. Cold air rushed over me. IT smelled like cedar, cologne, and egoed. I closed the door behind me just as the lock clicked back into place. Inside, the place was immaculate. Everything was staged. Fake. Even his awards gleamed like they'd never been touched by human hands. I walked to his computer, my steps slow, deliberate, like each one was a promise. I turned on the screen. IT asked for a password. I typed the one every employee knew he used for his travel logins. Harrington $2020 wrong. I tried his birthday, his kid's birthday, his assistant's birthday. All wrong. I clenched my jaw. Of course he changed it. But then, something caught my eye. On the corner of his desk sat a marble pen holder. Fancy. Expensive, useless. Inside it, a single pen was turned backward, showing a tiny gold engraving, 0.3 numbers, 0.3 little numbers that meant nothing to anyone except him, his office number. I typed it into the password field, 2203, enter. The desktop opened instantly. My breath left me in a shaky exhale. Got you? I murmured. I opened the secure drive. IT required a second authentication, a rotating digital key, but the key was already on the screen. The last thing he'd accessed before leaving for the day. He had left it. Opened, I clicked it. The folder unfolded like a blooming, poisonous flower. Reports, emails, recordings, documents labeled confidential and internal only. My eyes scanned the list and froze on one filed. Westbrook_transfer_final. Docs transfer. My heart dropped. I clicked it open. Inside was a memo, drafted 2 days before the sabotage, stating that the Westbrook project was being transferred from Ana Romero to Claire Davis due to performance concerns. 2 days before, 2 days before my presentation was even evaluated, 2 days before anyone could have judged my work, 2 days before everything went wrong. They planned it. They planned it from the start. I felt the room tilt, and then I saw another file. HR_dismissal_request_NR dated the same day, a dismissal request, before any mistake, before any meeting, before any edits. Harrington had already ordered my firing, and my throat tightened, hot and painful. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a setup, a clean removal of someone who wasn't supposed to shine. I kept scrolling through the folder, my fingers numb. There were emails between Harrington and Claire, messages discussing my overperformance, warnings about managing optics, notes about preventing disruption in leadership structure. Disruption. That was what success looked like to him, a disruption. Then I found the real bomb. A recording filed, voice memo _conference room 3. Wave. I hesitated for half a second, then clicked played. Harrington's voice filled the room. She's good. Too good. We can't give the Westbrook pitch to someone like her. Claire is the face we need. Then Claire's voice, sugary, fake, replied, but her numbers are better. And that's the problem, Harrington snapped. People like Ana don't rise. They stay where they belong. She doesn't fit the image I want. Replace her slides. Adjust the data. Make it look sloppy. She'll fold. Claire laughed, actually laughed. Poor girl. She works so hard. She works too hard, Harrington said. People like that become threats. My vision blurred with rage, not sadness, not pain, rage, boiling, electric, unstoppable rage. I leaned over his desk, gripping the edge until my fingers ached. I listened to the rest of the recording, instructions, laughter, arrogance. When it ended, the silence in the room felt like a vacuum. I closed the file, and that was when I whispered it, the words that weren't a promise anymore, but a prophecy. You're done, Harrington, you just don't know it yet. I copied every file, every memo, every recording onto the flash drive, onto my laptop, onto a cloud account he'd never, ever find. I backed up the backups. I triple secured everything. Then I shut down his computer and stood in the middle of his pristine office, the empire he built on lies, and felt something powerful settle inside me. Calm. Cold. Perfect calm. Not fear. Not doubt. Just purpose. I turned to leave, but froze when I heard footsteps in the hall, slow, heavy, coming straight toward the door. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart punching my ribs, my breath trapped in my throat. The steps stopped right outside. I swallowed a scream as the doorknob turned. Once slowly, someone was there, someone who shouldn't be, someone who might already know. The lock clicked loudly in the silence, and I braced myself, every nerve on fire, as the door began to open. The door creaked open, just a sliver. Just enough for a shadow to cut through the darkness of Harrington's office. I pressed my back against the wall, chest tight, throat closed, heart thundering in a panicked rhythm. If it was security, if it was Harrington, if it was anyone at all, I was done. The door pushed open another inch, and a figure stepped inside. Broad shoulders, hoodie, quiet steps that I almost collapsed with relief. Eli? I whispered. He shut the door fast and spun around. Jesus, Ana, he hissed. You're supposed to be gone already. What the hell are you doing? Finishing it, I said, holding up the flash drive. I got everything. All of it. He stared at it like it was radioactive. Do you know what that means? He whispered. Yeah. I swallowed. It means he falls. Eli pulled off his hood, ran a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. You're insane, he muttered. But honestly, I respect it. I tried to laugh, but all that came out was a shaky breath. Then I heard another sound, an elevator bell. Ding, my blood turned to ice. That's Harrington, Eli said. He always comes back around midnight to grab his stupid protein shakes from the fridge. Seriously? I hissed. He's a creature of habit, Eli whispered. We need to go.
Now.
We ran, quietly but fast, out the back exit near the file room. I heard the elevator doors slide open just as we reached the corridor corner. Anna.
Eli whispered fartly.
Move. We rushed down the hallway just as Harrington's voice echoed. Why is my office door unlocked? I didn't look back, didn't breathe. We hit the stairwell door, slipped inside, and eased it shut before his footsteps reached the intersection. Only when we were several floors down did I finally let out the air lodged in my lungs. I got it, I whispered. I actually got it.
Ish, Eli breathed, smiling indistinct.
You did. When we finally exited the building, the cold night air hit me like freedom for the first time since this nightmare started. I felt alive, that I didn't wake up. Because I didn't sleep, I sat at my kitchen table from 2 a.m. to sunrise, replaying the audio file over and over again, each time feeling a new wave of rage and vindication. You're too good. She doesn't fit the image I want. Replace her slides. She'll fold. He thought he could erase me. He thought wronged. At 9:14 a.m., I uploaded everything, all of it, the emails, the memos, the timestamps, the server logs, the recordings, not anonymously, under my real name. I sent them to the Westbrook Corporate Board, HR, every executive in the company, the ethics hotline, the legal department, and because I was done being quiet, the New York Business Chronicle, the biggest corporate whistleblower news outlet in the state. Then I sat back and waited. My phone buzzed. Once.
Twice.
Then a flood, messages, calls, notifications lighting up my screen like fireworks. Then Eli called. I answered immediately. Anna, he said breathlessly. It's everywhere. Everywhere. It's blowing up the internal network. Reporters are already at the building. HR is freaking out. Someone said Harrington locked himself in his office. I felt a slow, electric thrill crawl through me. Good, I whispered. BY Noon, the company issued a statement. We have placed Jonathan Harrington on immediate investigative leave. Investigative leave. That was corporate language for he's done. Stick a fork in him. Then another update. Claire Davis has been suspended pending review. Oh, Claire. Princess Claire. She should have stayed silent. But she didn't, because at 1:42 p.m., a video hit the internet, shot by some intern on the 22nd floor, showing Claire storming out of the office, screaming that none of this was her fault, and Harrington made her do it. Every outlet replayed it. Every comment section roasted her. Every employee sent it to their friends. BY 3 p.m., hashtag Justice for Anna was trending on Twitter. BY 4 p.m., the company sent me an official apology. BY 4:15 p.m., another email arrived from the Westbrook CEO himself. Anna, we would like to offer you the position of project lead. We deeply regret what happened. I sat there staring at the email, stunned. They wanted me back. They wanted me. The girl Harrington fired like trash. I could have taken the offer. Could have walked back into that building victorious. But no. No. I wanted more. I wanted final. I wanted permanent. So I wrote back. Thank you. But I decline.
You don't deserve me.
And I sent it. I didn't regret it for a single second. At 6 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I knew who it was before I picked up. Harrington, I answered coldly. His voice was small.
Panicked.
Shaking. Anna, please, we need to talk. No, I said. You need to talk. I'm done being quiet. He stuttered. You don't understand. This will ruin me. You ruined yourself, I said. I just hit play. You destroyed my career. You destroyed mine first. Anna, he whispered, I have a family. So did the people you fired for years, I said. Save the sympathy speech for someone who believes you. He was silent then. Please. What do you want? I felt my heartbeat slow. Not with fear, with power. I want you, I said, to know exactly what it feels like to lose everything you thought you controlled. Anna, I cut him off, and I want you to hear me say this. I paused, letting the silence sting. Then I delivered the final blow. People like me don't fold. People like you do. And I hung up and I never spoke to him again. Harrington resigned 2 days later. Claire vanished online, deleted accounts, no trace. The company issued formal statements, policy revisions, mandatory ethics training. Too late. Everyone already knew who built their empire and who destroyed IT, my name, my work. My truth. I became the face of the biggest corporate scandal of the year, the girl who took down the man who tried to erase her, and the offers came flooding in. Companies, startups, consultancies, even universities wanting me to speak, but I chose none of them. Instead, I started my own firm, a consulting agency for workplace protection, whistleblower support, and corporate transparency. I built something from the ashes he tried to bury me under. Something real, something powerful, something mine. I stood on the stage of a leadership conference in Chicago, the same city where Savannah Blake thought she'd steal my work. Funny how life circles. I looked out at a packed auditorium. I'm Anna Romero, I said into the mic, and I was fired, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The crowd erupted. I smiled, because revenge wasn't about anger or destruction or breaking someone. Revenge, real revenge, was success. Success so loud it echoed in the halls they kicked you out of. Success so bright it blinded the people who tried to dim you. Success so unstoppable that the person who hurt you became nothing more than a footnote in your story. And as I walked off that stage, applause shaking the room behind me, I whispered to myself, he should have never fired me. Then I smiled, because I wasn't invisible anymore. I was undeniable, and that was the most powerful revenge of all.